going up and up and up. And, you know, you would think that, okay, Southern Company, if you're going to be in power to produce power, why do you need our money? You know?
Right.
But, you know, lobbyists at the corporate level, they talk to senators, they talk to congressmen, they talk to legislators, and you wind up with a deal like we have and say, oh, we're going to do, you know, public-private partnership, which is not always bad. But then when you get to talking about, you know, how much this has ballooned in cost,
right,
then somebody should be answering some questions.
And we're at the mercy now.
Absolutely.
Like, we have to, like, carry that bill, and nobody called us
no.
and said, hey, we're going over. Is it okay for us to continue?
Because a lot of it is not doing, that's the shadiness in it. A lot of those decisions are being done in the dark. A lot of those decisions haven't come to the public to ask, and then we don't have a lot of public officials who are knowledgeable or you know, understanding enough of those particular things, and then, you know, it cost somebody, you know, I guess you want to negotiate, it cost somebody an election, as far as the mayor trying to explain that.
Y'all gonna have me switching all day today.
You know, it cost somebody their seat.
Because let's talk about that. Because Albany's mayor, Kermit, ran his entire election campaign promising folks in this community that he was going to do something to lower these costs.
Right.
Has that happened?
Absolutely not.
It hadn't happened, y'all. And people voted on the good faith that this man was going to help them to overcome these high energy rates. And so...
And even more to the point, he's signaled numerous times that we're going to have to raise utility rates. Again, the going message is we're not going to even speak about raising property taxes. We're not going to even talk about it. But we'll always threaten to, oh, if we have to do this, we're going to have to raise utility rates. Oh, if we have to do that, we're going to have to raise utility rates. It's like, we can do that, but nothing else, you know. And again, when you look at the numbers, what does Albany have? You know, a high rate of renters.
60% renter population. And so it would not, raising property taxes would not impact the majority of the African Americans in this community.
Exactly.
The ones that are mostly earning or owning homes are the higher income earners.
Right.
So we're putting the burden then on the lower income earners.
On the lower income. And that's the disparity that you talked about earlier. It grinds, you know, poor folks up because they are literally deciding to pay their light bill or buy medicine, to, you know, live in heat and squalor or cold to see if they're going to have a meal on the table. That's what you're talking about.
It's when you describe it like that, Demetrius, when you think about people who are literally struggling to get food on the table. We've heard stories of people that have lost their children from defects because they couldn't pay their bill and they got kicked out of their public housing, and so then their children were taken from them. They're struggling to not only build up the coffers of the city's budget, but also Georgia Power, which is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. How is that fair? How is that?
It's not fair at all, but it's the mindset. It's who do you think you can or get away with kicking the most? And, you know, with poor folks or marginalized folks, you can get away with that. You know, if you go after more money from taxpayers, they're going to be down there with torches at the city commission meeting, you know, saying no. You know, somebody else just lost an election because of raising property taxes at the county, you know.
That is true.
And so we always know that property taxes, when you talk about raising property taxes on homeowners and folks who, you know, may be doing a little bit better, you're going to have something to deal with. With utility rates, everybody just kind of pays it blindly because we know I use the energy, but you don't know how much is being put on top of that you may not need to be paying for, or, you know, just watching how that money is used. And I'll say all day, Albany Utility belongs to the citizens of Albany.
Talk about it. Like, what does that mean? Why? How does that belong? Because we just talked about Georgia Power owns everything.
Right.
MEAG is running things, all the utilities. So how could it possibly belong to the people? Explain that.
Because it is a department. It is a department of the city of Albany. You know, again, the shenanigans back in the day in the 70s, they always kept it separate from the city. You know, talked with some very knowledgeable folks who've been in city government for quite a few years, and they talked about how Mayor Gray over in the old Albany utility building used to literally keep cash over there. They wouldn't even bring it across the street to city offices, and it was a separate board that had no dealings with the city commission, and they would, you know, cut them a check every now and then, but there was a lot of money that would just stay over there. That was almost a slush fund in the early days for, you know, I guess whoever was in control back in the 90s, I want to say. You know, the other folks, our guy, Chris Pike, who was on the commission then, made a movement to actually bring the utility back up under the control of the city commission, which ostensibly makes it a city-run department, and therefore they should be accountable to the people. We own it. It's just like the city government. It's just like the police. It's just like the fire. It's a part of public resources, but it doesn't benefit the public. It benefits the government.
It's supposed to benefit the public, but right now it's benefiting the government. And so let's talk about the people who are controlling that benefit. So we know at the top, the people that set the utility rates is the Public Service Commission.
Well, not for us. We don't come under the Public Service Commission. Public Service Commission regulates Georgia Power and private.
So they set the baseline rate that Georgia Power is selling to everyone.
Well, not really, because the cities negotiate their rates from Georgia Power through MEAG. So the Public Service Commission really doesn't come into that particular negotiation. The Public Service Commission regulates what, you know, folks like you who are on Georgia Power, what you pay, you know. So you have a little bit more of a leeway with the Public Service Commission to say, hey, you know, or you can, you know, unelect somebody for the Public Service Commission. But most folks don't even, down here, don't even know what the Public Service, don't know who it is, you know. But here we have a utility board that, you know, works directly with the utility to supposedly set rates, but in the past it's just basically been a rubber stamp. Somebody
a board
said,
of just rubber stamp.
Yeah, we're going to raise the rates. We're going to raise the rates. They're not looking at, you know, what impact that it has on the citizens. But I'm happy to say now that we have some newer board members, they've been working very hard to, you know, kind of change that dynamic.
And we got some black folks that look like the ones that are being impacted the most. So that's so important. People don't understand, like, representation matters.
Absolutely.
And having people that, like, I know one of our utilities commissioners has experienced the high rates of utility bills, has experienced, like, having their lights cut off before. And so he knows, you know, the burden of the utilities. And now he's speaking
You got another one over there, too, that supposedly experience those things.
Right.
But, wow. We haven't heard too much as far as their activism since they've been on the board.
But I will give it to them. The votes that I've seen have been favorable to at least trying to improve things. And so that's what's important. Okay, so we just talked about all the hands. There are a lot of hands in the money, in the pie.
Absolutely.
So you have Georgia Power, you have MEAG, you have Public Service Commission, which just to put a real quick point of information, as our great Eric Mays loves to say. So Public Service Commission was actually challenged last year by Black Voters Matter and several other organizations for being discriminatory. Because the way it works with the Public Service Commission, they're broken out into districts across the state. We have a representative a commissioner in our district who I have no idea who it is, so I got to work on that, and we got to get him down here so folks can know who that person is. These folks, y'all, make over $120,000 a year, just to meet, like, I think 4 or 6 times a year.
Nice check.
They get a nice fat check. So a lot of these people are white-haired old men that have money and means already, that are making decisions, and they can pay their utility bill. They have no problems paying their utility bills, but they're making decisions about how utility bills, how the rates are set for folks across the state. So that's the first thing. But the lawsuit was based on the fact that everybody in the state votes for public service commissioners, even though they're broken out into districts. And so the courts found that to be discriminatory after several challenges, and it was like really contentious. But after several challenges, they finally decided to take it off the ballot and to make them now district-wide races. And so that's one of the fights. That's what we do. We advocate. We find those ways to bring the power back to the people, and that was one of the ways that was accomplished. So shout outs to BVM, but Black Voters Matter, all the other organizations that were part of that fight to get that win for us. So it's a small win, but hopefully it'll get us more and better people representing us at the PSC level. So I want to shift a little bit. We talked about all the hands that are in our bill. I want to talk a little bit about the other conditions that impact why your utility bills are so high. And honestly, I really want to talk about this like we've been talking about from a Black lens. I remember when I moved back to Albany, I would hear people talk a lot about how disproportionate it seems to be impacting Black folks. And so we were like, let's figure that out. Let's figure out what's happening and why it seems like white people in our community are paying $100 a month for their utilities, and then Black people in lower income communities are paying $800 to $1,000 a month on utility bills. One of the ways we saw that being a major issue was the housing crisis in Albany. So let's talk a little bit about that. And why is it so bad here in the South with housing?
Well, we just have a poor and declining housing stock, meaning the houses are getting older, they're not getting refurbished, they don't have all of the costs and energy saving appliances or technologies within an old house that was built back in the 70s. And as they get poorer, the house starts opening up to the climate. You get heat or cold coming into the house more, and you have to keep your utilities running longer. And that's really what we're dealing with when you see, homeowners on the north side of Albany who have homes that were, probably built in the 90s or later, have smaller bills.
Or they have the means to do the energy upgrades, get the insulation, the weatherization, the energy efficient appliances, and all those
to upgrade their homes and all of those things. And that's a lot of what's at play with the disparity when you see those types of bills. And we have to do better as a city. Again, if we are really focused on this being a benefit to our citizens, we have to use that money that's a surplus that we pat ourselves on the back and not just devour that money into some other, governmental costs, but to make a difference in the lives of our citizens, to say we're going to help your home be energy efficient so we can bring those costs down for you. So you don't have a high utility bill and you don't have to worry about, whether or not you're going to be able to, have lights or feed your kids or have lights or buy your medicine. We need to turn that money around. And they've done it before for other things. They've taken surpluses and the rebates from the money that we get from MEAG, again, from selling surplus power, and they roll it up into a job creation fund, which provides incentives for business and other folks other than direct citizens.
Y'all ain't gonna get me started on this job creation fund. We have to save that conversation for another day.
It's what it is.
It's gonna sip a little bit on that one because that still doesn't go back to the Black community in many instances.
Absolutely, that's not.
However, so what you just described really impacts homeowners, people that have purchased homes, and so they're able to do the upgrades, or they're maybe not able to do the upgrades, and so and one of the things I want to give a shout out to Squad. The city of Albany does have kind of a pay-as-you-save program. Right. That when we started this fight was only at like $40,000. So $40,000 in this program, you can use this money to pay for those energy efficient upgrades, get the weatherization, buy the new appliances if you're a low income homeowner, and then the savings off your bill once you purchase those things. That would then allow you, that's what they use to pay that back. But it was only $40,000. So it's like, that doesn't go far. So we were like, okay, well, like, find some money to increase the pot. Right. And so we were grateful we were able to get that increase to $1 million because of our advocacy.